Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. HTM here, and in today's video we'll be counting down the toughest, most brutal, most challenging world bosses to conquer in the Elder Scrolls Online. These 10 bosses from the base game are absolute beasts and have been known to wreck even fairly decent players such as myself in an instant if you underestimate their deadliness. That's why I'll be giving you some tips and tricks to handle these encounters, as well as showing off some strong solo builds if you want to challenge yourself to take on these monsters alone. So that being said, let's jump right into the list. Starting off at number 10, we are in the zone of Bankarai. Again, just talking about base game world bosses in this video, just to keep it simple. We're at the Summoner's Camp. This is a combination world boss, so we have the Watcher and his mage companion. Now, by themselves, neither boss is particularly strong, but when you combine them together, that's when you can have some difficulty. So I like to focus on the Watcher first. That's just so I can keep my distance from the mage. That's going to help me avoid some of those slower AoE damaging abilities that will do a lot of damage if they hit me, but if I keep my distance, I can hopefully avoid them. The Watcher does have a knockback and stun type attack, so make sure you watch out for those. Also, like we mentioned, the mage can do some pretty significant damage with those special abilities, like this streak ability, for example. So make sure you have some type of damage shield rolling, or at least a heal over time to help you deal with that extra damage. Once you get that Watcher down, you can then focus on the mage, and then you should be good to go. Coming in next at number 9 on our list, we're in the Zone of the Rift at the Ungervund Mound. We're going to be facing off against a ghost world boss. This is Goragam. I guess I'm saying that right. Now, the boss is interesting in that he spends most of the fight hidden underground, and instead of fighting him, he's going to summon a lot of these Draugr enemies, and you're going to have to deal with these through most of the fight. You can see a ton of them just run up to me right away in this fight. So the strategy here is you really need some AoE damage to handle these. You don't want to leave them up. You want to handle the adds as quickly as possible. As soon as you defeat them, then the boss comes back quicker. So that's kind of the strategy here. On my Magica Nightblade, for example, Sap Essence, that's going to help me do a lot of AoE damage. You'll also want to focus on the casters first, particularly any healers, because they can heal themselves and other enemies in the group. You can see this mage is particularly annoying. He can do some pretty decent damage as well as heal himself, so you'll want to focus on him as well. Be prepared for a long fight. Like I mentioned, the main boss just is hidden more than half the time, so it makes this boss fight pretty much one of the longest ones in the base game. But just keep at it, keep focused on those adds, and you will get him down eventually. All right, number 8 on our list, we are back in Bankarai at the Daedra Sanctum over here on the southeast corner of the zone. A lot of people like this area for farming, but there is a pretty challenging world boss here. This is Darius. I'm just going to call him Darius because I think it sounds good. Who is a pretty heavy-hitting melee-based Daedra with also some pretty strong fire damage. So you'll want to watch out for that dizzying swing and the fire channels. Now, if one of those fireballs hit you, it does absolutely massive damage. And the other main mechanic here is these Ogrim that he'll summon periodically throughout the fight. You'll want to get these down as soon as possible. If not, they'll just keep stacking up more and more Ogrim, and these enemies cast fireballs on you as well. So once you have like 3 or 4 of those in the fight, that's absolutely going to be a mess. Make sure you kill them off right away. If you do that, if you manage the adds, then the fight is actually fairly simple. Again, just avoid that dizzy swing or block it. Keep up your heals and you should be good to go. For number 7 on our list, we are back in the Zone of Eastmarch, and we're taking a look at Rageclaw. Rageclaw is a werewolf world boss who at the start seems fairly easy, fairly simple. I mean, it's just a solo werewolf, right? They do hit pretty hard, so you want to block their main attacks if you can. Make sure you have some heals. Heal over time would be ideal. But yeah, nothing too difficult at first. But the issue here is once he gets down to about 60%, you can see he summons 3 more werewolves, and yes, I got obliterated pretty quickly here. I think the issue is any werewolf can stagger you back, right? So if I'm staggered, I won't be able to block. And I got hit by about 3 to 4 swipes at once from all the different werewolves, and that put me down pretty quickly. So, new strategy. Second time around, I'm going to replace my single target execute with an AoE spammable, so I've got Sap Essence up again. And I've also put on my Vampire Ultimate on the back bar. So this is basically, I'm invulnerable. I'm unkillable for those 15 or so seconds where I'm in my vampire form. This is going to let me take care of the ads very quickly and then just focus on the boss. You can see I have the boss under 30% just by using my ultimates. He will summon the ads again. So in a fight like this, the quicker you kill the boss, the better. That means there's going to be less ad waves for you to deal with. And in a fight like this where the ads hit just as hard as the boss, that's definitely a good thing. You want as few ads as possible. Make sure you have some AoE skills available. Make sure especially you have an AoE ultimate. Drop that as soon as the ads spawn, and then try to kill off the boss as quickly as you can after that. We are at Bitterpoint Strand. This is in the zone of Minotaur. And we're facing off against the Drowned Horde, which is basically a bunch of summoned undead skeletons, soldiers, and mages. At first, you'll have just a couple waves of the basic soldiers and casters, so nothing really significant here. It's just a warm-up for the next round. Here you can see wave 2. Again, more of the same. These are just basic enemies, so it's not really a problem. But after the 2 waves, you will then face off against the first mate and the Jomar, the Drowned. Now, this is another combination world boss fight. What that means is instead of 1 boss, you have 2. They take the total amount of health points, which is like almost 2 million, and they split it among the 2 bosses. Now, each boss by themselves is not particularly difficult, but when you have both bosses combined together, both with, different effects and abilities, that's when it can get a little bit challenging. Now, what's even more challenging about this boss encounter specifically is that both of these are casters, and they both have different abilities that can do lots and lots of damage. Now, it's also very hard to separate them out. Being casters, they like to just kind of stand in place. They have smaller hitboxes, so you'll want to probably have some AoE skills, just drop them on the ground, but you also need to stay mobile. You need to keep moving, because if you get hit by multiple of these magical abilities, that's going to drop your health really quick. The lightning effect in particular is very hard to see. It's very quickly casted. And then that ice effect on the ground is also very strong. You want to move away from that if possible. So all in all, just a lot of damage in this fight. Make sure to use some type of damage shield if you have it, either Brawler for a stamina build or a light armor shield for a magicka build. Keep your heals rolling. Heal over time is very important in a fight like this. And like I said, do lots of AoE damage. That way you just kill them both off as quickly as possible. For number 5 on our list, we are in Grotwood. This is Naindaril's Perch. And you guys, the last 5 on this list are much harder than the first 5. Starting off with our pair of tigers in the Grotwood zone. I don't think I was quite prepared for this. I thought, well, it's just, 2 enemies, 2 little cute tigers. It's not going to be an issue for me in my build. Well, what really is the problem, especially for magicka build, is there's tons of stun locking between the 2 tigers here. They also fight pretty strategically. They have this fear ability where one tiger will fear you and the other tiger will be doing a heavy attack at the same time. So yeah, this fight can actually be fairly challenging depending on your build. As you can see, I wasn't really prepared for it and I got smacked hard. Almost 12k damage by 1 hit combined with another 7k damage. So yeah, that was enough to finish me off. You can see I trying again, I almost got killed again. So you want to be very careful with this fight. Having a lot of heal over time active, having extra damage shields if you can, and then dropping an AoE ultimate as soon as possible. You don't want this fight to go on for a long time. The longer you're fighting these guys, the more chances they have to fear you, draining your stamina, and then ultimately just clawing you to death. So popping the ultimate early on works fairly good. I'm going to focus on the smaller tiger called Bavura the Blizzard. I'm going to get her down as quickly as possible. because that's going to make the rest of the fight much easier when I only have one tiger to deal with. For number 4 on our list, we're at the Shivering Shrine. This is in the zone of Stone Falls, facing off against the Golden Saint. And this is an example of one of those world bosses that just hits insanely hard. Not only that, she does summon portals pretty regularly during the fight, which have these scamps. The scamps can actually do a lot of damage to you with their spells. The good thing about them is they don't have a lot of hit points, so they do die off fairly quickly, but you'll want to take care of them. You don't want to leave them alive for very long. So, as a tip here, drop some AoEs on the ground near them. I wouldn't really focus on them specifically because the boss is so dangerous. You want to keep an eye on her at all times pretty much. So just drop those AoEs on the ground. Pull the boss closer to them if possible. That way you're damaging everything at the same time. Watch out for these clan fears. She does summon clan fears as well. Remember, clan fears can leap to you instantly, knocking you down. And if you happen to get knocked down and then whip smacked by the main boss, just like that, yeah, that's a problem. The double whip attack from the main boss is very hard hitting, like we mentioned. So having some type of shield ready, having a burst heal, that's going to be really helpful in this fight. And then also kind of just kiting her, just staying sort of that medium range. That way you can avoid the breath attack, you can avoid the whip. Keep your distance if you can. That will definitely help you out. Number 3 on our list, we are in Deshawn at Caravan Crest. About to take on Bitter Green the Wild. This cute little Gawar with a backpack is actually one of the most deadliest world bosses in the game. I think depending on your build. Some builds will be able to handle this better than others. I think particularly Magicka builds and ranged builds are going to have a little bit of an advantage versus stamina builds. The reason why is the closer you get to Bitter Green, the more damage and stun locking you're going to have to deal with. So you can see sort of that AoE on the ground effect. He shoots out about 3 of those kind of shockwave attacks. Those do a lot of damage and they always knock you down. That in addition to the annoying Spriggans that he spawns all over the place, this fight can be very long and very annoying. Like I said, if you have a ranged build, that's probably going to be your best option. That's going to let you keep your distance from Bitter Green where you can actually sort of move around in between the AoE damage. It's going to be really helpful because you won't get knocked down. And getting knocked down is one of the main things that kills you in this fight. So yes, if you have the option, go ranged. If not, bring a lot of healing, bring some defenses. Damage shields are always good. Healing over time because you will spend a significant portion of the fight on the ground in this one. That way, if you have those heal over times rolling in still, those can keep you alive while you're locked down. That's really important. Right, so world boss number 2 on this list takes our award for the most annoying world boss ever. This is Duria Tunder from Cold Harbor. It's basically an Ice Wraith world boss, which summons a lot of adds. Now, why is it the most annoying world boss ever? Knockdowns, stuns with no cooldown. That's right. This enemy's knockdowns ignores your own internal, CC cooldown timer. So you can get knocked down every 1 to 2 seconds in this fight. Similar to the Bitter Green fight that we saw in number 3 previously, but even worse, like much worse. You can see him on my back several times during this gameplay footage. Really the only thing that's keeping me alive is I do have crit surge, so I have passive healing, and I also have some passive damage shields on this setup. Now the adds here, they are a lot of adds in this fight, but luckily they don't do a lot of damage. So if you have a few AoE abilities, if you're a stamina build, again, have Big Brawler, that's going to help you out. If not, some AoE effects like Endless Hail, something like that, where you can just passively kill off these adds. That's going to really help you. But basically, try to block as much as you can. I did not block very much in this fight, and you can see it's really taking a toll on me. The more you can block to avoid those knockdowns, the better. But having some dots as well, dotting up the main boss in this case, because you're going to be spending so much time stun locked. I also have Hurricane, for example, that's AoE damage over time. So any damage that you can do passively, including just dropping a big old AoE ultimate, you can see I've got the Elemental Rage here on this build. Anything passive damage, that's going to be the key to winning this fight. All right, and we are up to number 1 on the list, the most challenging world boss, at least in terms of base game world bosses, in my opinion. We're in the zone of Rivenspire. This is Meinir Stoneskin, the gargoyle boss. And this is one of those cases where the boss is actually not the biggest challenge for this fight. It's actually the ads in this fight. Number 1, the carved mages. These can be extremely damaging to you, and they can also heal other ads in the fight as well as the main boss. So they're extremely important to focus on. Now again, the main boss, the gargoyle, is not extremely difficult. You'll want to avoid the AoE smash attack. Try to avoid that conal attack if you can, because it will stun you. But yeah, overall, just the boss by himself, not a huge deal. But you can see every maybe 10-20%, he will summon 3 to 4 of these carved ads. We talked about the casters already. The melee ads are almost as bad in this case. Number 1, they do have a strong dizzy swing style knockdown effect. It can be very difficult to see with everything that's going on. So be prepared to get stunned and blasted up into the air. That's, again, where passive healing is king, you guys. If you have passive healing, like a heal over time running, that's going to save you in this fight because you will be stunned and you will be taking a lot of damage while you're stunned. So yes, you do want to focus on the ads. That's your primary concern in this fight. As soon as an ad wave spawns, move over to it. Bring Meinir Stoneskin over to the ads if possible. That way you're doing damage to everything in the fight at the same time. And like I said, prioritize those casters first, the healers, bash them, interrupt them, lay down some AoE damage, watch out for those melee ads, and good luck. This is a fun fight. And with that said, that's going to wrap up our top 10 most difficult world bosses, at least for the base game of the Elder Scrolls Online. If you guys enjoyed this list and you found it informative, don't forget to crush that like button. And if I missed any world bosses, let me know in the comments section below. Let me know if you're interested in another world bosses video, maybe for DLC world bosses next. Let me know what you guys think. Now, if you need more help, if you need some strong solo builds to handle this stuff yourself, I'll have links down in the description for all of the builds I showed off in this video. You can also check out my website, hacktheminotaur.com. I have several solo builds for all classes in the Elder Scrolls Online, so I definitely recommend you check those out if this type of gameplay interests you. As always, thanks again so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.